We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show that all board members are present, and our board student showcase is student drones from the high school. And welcome, and you're up.
So I am Tara Cootie, and I am the CTE teacher, specifically for engineering and a couple of sections of wood. And I brought two of my engineering students with me. So the first one is Bella Whitworth, and she's had multiple classes with me, made it through engineering 1, and then was registered for engineering 2 this year and had a scheduling conflict, so I get her next year. And then the other student I brought is Elijah Madison, and he is gone through engineering 1, 2, and 3. So they're going to be talking a little bit about what we do in all 3 classes. But I did bring a little bit of show and tell. So while they're talking, they can kind of demonstrate sort of what we're doing. We build drones and fly drones in 3. We do lots of fabrication and test work in 2. So this is a train car, which is what my class is currently working on. They're each designing their own train car. And then at the end, they all have to help them out to make one really long train. And then in 1, we do a lot of design and test work. So we do stuff like we'll make wooden rope puzzles where they get to use a laser engraver and a 3D printer. And then wonderfully get to take them home and irritate their family with them because nobody can ever solve them. And then they also do a really large 3D printing project by doing 3x3 cubes. And these are where they have to design all of the pieces. And they have various requirements for them, and then they have to figure out tolerancing so that everything fits together. And then at the end, they have to explain the process and directions, and they also need to take that home. So typically what I get left with is a few pieces that didn't go home. But I will turn it over to Bella first, and she'll talk about her experiences and how she's using them, and then I'll turn it over to Elijah.
Okay, so like Kitty said, I'm Bella. I'm a sophomore. I've taken engineering 1, and I would be in engineering 2. Except my schedule didn't allow it, so I'll take it next year and probably have a lot of fun. I love all the CTE classes, but like engineering is my favorite. I really enjoy it. I want to be an engineer, so the stuff we learn in this class is gonna transfer over into my real life, which is kind of cool that I can take a class like that. Yeah, some of the things we do, like she said, we make a lot of 3D printed stuff. So like these puzzles teach us a lot about how to work 3D printers and like the science behind it and how you have to build things to print things that work. And then we do puzzles to teach us like how to like. So the thing that's important with these is we do engineering journals. So the thing it teaches us is like how to document what we're learning and what we're doing so that others can see it and see our pitfalls and what went well and what didn't and how we got to where we ended up. Yeah, and then I'm also in robotics, which is a lot of engineering. So a lot of the things I learned in engineering I can take to robotics, and they overlap a lot, which says something about our engineering program that we're learning the right things. And then a lot of the skills I learned in engineering I can take to robotics as well. So like 3D printing, for example, I made this for robotics very recently, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without the skills I learned in engineering and the resources I had of the 3D printer and the software and being able to use the software to make things.
So if you made that part specifically for your robot, so like tell us like what all goes into that, like how did you do it?
Yeah, so we have this software we use called Onshape, and basically you start from nothing and you have to make sketches and you have to make each of the parts to the size you want it, and you have to like dimension it so everything fits together nicely. And then once you have all your parts separate that you want, you like transfer them to an SD card, and then you transfer them to the printer, and then you print all the parts that you need. So the printer kind of figures out like what to do. You just have to make the part, which is the hard part. And then it prints and you put it together and you're good. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes you have to try a lot of different things to get it to work. And yeah, engineering is a great class, and it teaches us a lot of real life skills that we can use, people who want to pursue the field and people who don't.
So what does that part do?
So
What is it for on your robot?
it's for a controller actually,
Okay,
to help us be able to push joysticks and buttons at the same time.
okay.
So part of robotics is putting together a journal with all of the steps.
Yes,
Are you in charge of that for your team?
I am in charge of it by elimination. I am the best at it.
I'm sure you are. With all the diagrams and everything else.
Exactly. And we learned that, how to do that in engineering. So it's really helpful.
And then Elijah, I think, is gonna come up and talk about engineering 3 and the drones programming, his whole experience through it.
Hey guys, I'm Elijah. I took all 3 engineering class when I was a freshman. And now I am doing the 3rd engineering class again this try. Thank you for letting me back in.
He had it during COVID.
Oh yeah, that's terrible. Before I start, I'd like to say thank you, Cootie. Not even an hour ago, I found out I was accepted to St. Cloud University for engineering. So thank you. I wouldn't have been able to get into that without you. The engineering program changed my life. I found out something that I'm passionate for. We do everything from building drones to CAD software, like she said. It's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of what's the word for it? Well, you fail a lot. You have to figure out new solutions to it. You have to work with constraints. It makes you think a lot more. And yeah, I had so much when I was just getting.
I have a question. Is that train car, is that 3D printed?
Yes, yes, it is. It is entirely made out of plastic that, yeah. Everything from the words on the side to the wheels, the axles, everything but the glue. Is 3D printed.
So you 3D print all the parts, but then you still have to put it together?
Yes,
Okay.
Is it a special kind of plastic or what?
We use PLA, so it's one of pretty much, it's usually the most standard used, especially in education, because it's very forgiving. So, and then if we screw up, it's not insanely expensive to fix.
Awesome.
How many students do you have in your class?
So engineering 1 tends to be the most popular course. We tend to have usually 2 to 3 sections of it, and each section has somewhere between 30 and 32 kids in it. Oh yeah, it's quite a bit. Engineering 2 fluctuates year by year. Usually it kind of it depends on like when it gets scheduled. I've had anywhere between 1 and 2 sections. I think this year is quite possibly my lowest numbers because I think I have 16 or 17 in them, but I lost a lot of them because they were dual registered for 2 and 3 and they were seniors. So this is their last chance to take 3 and everybody wants to fly drones. So, last year I had 2 sections of it, I believe, and there was about 24 in each. So it really just tends to depend on the year and kind of when it gets scheduled. We, by a fluke, ended up scheduled 6-hour opposite of a major AP course and OJT, and it is what it is when you're scheduling. My engineering 3 is usually, it's the one that's still building up. It's a brand new course as of, I think, 4 or 5 years ago now. So it's kind of the words slowly getting out. So we have 16 in that one, I think, too. 16, 17. I think so. We have 6 groups of drones and there's 2 to 3 students per drone. So it's a good sized class, considering where we started.
So the drone is made on the 3D printer?
The drone is not, it does actually have some 3D printed pieces to it. We have a drone kit that we bought, and so they send us all the parts and then we have to basically maintain them, repair them. It's an endless cycle, and then we build them up, fly them, and then tear them down at the end of the class, basically. So right now they're actually working on getting the transmitter connecting to the receiver. And if you watch my class right now, you would see a lot of students doing a lot of troubleshooting because it never goes right the first time. So, but they're, I think I had one out who finished all the setup, so they'll be flying tomorrow. Yep, your group, I believe. And then there's one that It should be on the very last step, and then there's a couple that still are working on getting it to actually recognize that there's a drone there.
What are all the different attachments that you put on, like, you see cameras or ways that you can
So-
pick things up or?
This, I'm pretty sure is just a normal drone with a camera. We have everything from a antenna that, connects the drone to the, controller, so you can actually control the thing. They have a camera that you can hook up to like first person goggles, so you can see exactly where you're flying, and it's kind of like, you're flying yourself. And yeah, there's everything from accelerometers in here, barometers. Very high-tech stuff in such a small package.
What's the flight time for the battery? power?
I don't know if anybody's ever run it dry. We are pretty cautious about maintaining several charged batteries, so each team usually has between 2 and 3 charged batteries.
The
And
rechargeable battery?
Yep, we charge them. This becomes a really busy time for me because I charge during all my downtime. So there's a lot of charging going on in my classroom right now. I think it's about 20 to 25 minutes, I wanna say. So, because they usually have to go through 2 batteries in the class period, they start flying right away and go all the way through. It's very weather dependent, I'll say, because we don't fly in the wind, we don't fly in the rain. They're too expensive to risk getting caught in the wind and losing them. So, we tend to run it in the spring or the fall because we get better weather in the spring. I think we ran it in the spring once and we crammed like 3 weeks worth of flying into like a week because it took forever to thaw. So they do much better when they fly in fall. But yeah, it usually gets about close to a half hour.
So is that the same drone for each engineering 3 class?
Yep.
So you break it down and then you can build it
Yep.
back up.
And then we'll buy spare parts and maintain them, so if something happens, like we do accidentally get it, run into the ground or break up a propeller or something, it's really easy to fix it. We do have indoor drones as well, so so the way that the class runs, they have a curriculum to go through. And then after they pass a certain point in the curriculum, they have a flight software simulator that they have to pass, and so they practice on that with controllers and get used to the handles. And then they have to prove to me that they can fly for the simulator. Which is always kind of funny because that's like completely different than how you fly the drones. Because they're going, yeah, no, it's really hard. And then once they do that, we actually have little indoor drones, they're probably about this big, and they use the same controllers, but they take a beating like nobody's business. So we'll fly them either in the wood shop or the small engines room or in the hall or sometimes the gym if we can. But that way, if they like kind of get blown into a wall, it's not the end of the world. Because they've been abused quite nicely. They do exactly what they're designed to do, and this gives them like real world flying in a contained, controlled, abuse accepting drone. And then once they pass that, then they need to go out and fly outside.
And where do you go to fly? Just out to the,
So for us, we actually have to get very special permission because we are in a no-fly zone.
right?
So
Because the
we,
airport.
because of both the airport and the hospital, interestingly enough. So, and there is like no place around that without busting to like Elk River. But we actually go and we notify both the hospital and the airport when we go out and fly. And basically every drone group has to have a designated spotter. And that spotter's sole job is to watch the sky for any airplanes, helicopters, anything like that. And if one comes into the airspace, they have to hit the ground immediately. So it's cut everything. So we basically will tell them we will be flying during these days on these times, and we will be looking out for you, so you're not responsible for us, and then have to stay within 100 feet or below.
So on the controller, then you can see what your altitude is.
Yes.
And there's a ceiling, right? Is that 200 feet, 400 feet?
100?
Depends on the area. For us, it's 100 feet, and I usually try to tell them stay under 50, just because if there is a plane, like I remember one time, we were out flying and somebody was practicing landing and takeoffs at the airport. So they get their drone up and then be like, plane, everybody down, and they come out cracking down. And then, okay, it's gone all right, we can fly again, and then they take off again, like, oh boy. So, because they don't have to notify us, we have to notify them. So it's very important that we let them know when we're flying, and then it's our job to avoid them.
I have just one more question. So, because I have a drone and I use it use it too, but I have to have a license through that.
Yep, they're all licensed.
They're all, you're all.
Every one of us
licensed.
by class.
You got your little white card and it's in your wallet. You
I
scan it
have
It's
on.
electronic, so.
I have a.
Well, I know, I'm just-
electronic PDF.
Mhm. Yep, every one of them, that was required of operating, they're all
You're
licensed.
more technological than-
So you hear it being a common practice for farmers to check their crops and things. What are some other common uses for drones? You see it also with like video production. And so are there some other common areas that drones are used?
Now we see how good I keep learning lessons.
I'm still failing this class. From what I know, they're used extensively in military operations. Engineers use them, let's say, NASA rockets, instead of having people climb up like 50 million ladders to check, like, I don't know, like a bolt or something, send up a drone to check if something like that's going on. Like you said, farmers checking their crops. I know one friend of mine has a drone that he uses to check around his property for like animal breaches through like fences and stuff like that.
They're also using it for search and rescue right now. So in fairness, and he's not had this lesson yet. Because that's not required in life. Separate joke thought, but they're doing a lot of extensive work with search and rescue right now for the drones flying over disaster areas, stuff like that. So, like, for example, the wildfires that are going on in California over the summer. They were told basically to not have, private citizens flying their drones because they've got search and rescue drones going out, evaluating the fire or looking for people who are missing. So it's becoming a really advanced, use for it, which is very good for these students because it's giving them an option to see that as an opportunity. The other thing I do know, they're starting to use them for photography for like magazine shots or cover pages and stuff. So that's becoming a very large option as well for a career choice.
What brand is that?
This particular one, we have all of ours as Ruby Cube, so it's through Adventure drone curriculum. They also do robotics, they do another one, I can't remember what it is. But they kind of cater package stuff to the different grade levels. So that's who we have ours through.
Thanks. Awesome program. Thanks for coming to showcase
Thank you so
that.
much.
Yeah, nice job. And don't think you have to stay, but you're always welcome to a few months.
Actually, about an hour drive.
Yeah, I know. We appreciate you coming out. and
Thank you
staying.
very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Right, there are no citizens comments. We'll move on to reports and start with board member committee reports. And we'll start with Dawn.
I had community ed and policy.
I have policy.
Nothing to report.
I had agenda planning and then the C general meeting. And we have a new executive director and she hasn't sent the recording yet, but I'll forward that because the pollsters that always report to us in the fall, that's always really an interesting part of the C agenda. And so when I get a copy of that, I will send it your direction. Eric.
No.
I had wellness committee and agenda planning and then policy committee.
All right.
United Heaven.
All right. And we don't have a student council member, but we have that.
Yes, Winnie sends her regrets. She sent me a report that I'll read. She said October is College Knowledge Month and November is Career Knowledge Month. So in the near future, the CC for Learning, Climate and Culture for Learning Committee for Student Council will plan around those themes. College knowledge is focused more on learning about attending universities and how to get there. And career knowledge is focused more on careers without college, like the trades. Homecoming overall went well. Tigers won the football game with there also being a good turnout at the game. The Powder Puff And Powder Puff Games went well, coronation went well, and there was some good participation from the student body on dress up days. So that is from winning.
All right, thank you. And then superintendent report.
Well, I spent the last 3 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in Brainerd at the yearly MASA meetings, and that went well. It's always good to collaborate with other superintendents across the state. And lots of learning taking place. I want to let the board know that tomorrow is a big morning for us, as it's walk to school for our district that coincides with the national walk to school days. So we'll all be out early and on corners, and buses will drop students off and they'll walk a certain distance to school, and that's always quite festive. I think we're gonna have good weather for that. So that is exciting. And I'll just end on a personal note and thank the board for allowing me some days off the week before for my daughter getting married. It was extremely successful, great experience for our family, and I know some of you have had, weddings in your family, and if you haven't, you may in the future. Pretty big deal for your family, so exciting. And I'll end my remarks unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Ben? All right. We'll move on to approving the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Deb. Is there a second? Second by Chad. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discuss and act on previous board meeting minutes from 9/22/9/20. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So motion made by Don, second by Jim. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So
Motion made by Eric Minks, second by Sue. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The information part of our meeting is the first reading of policy, and the summary of changes is listed. And John, do you have anything you'd like to talk about there?
No, everything's noted in the changes there and pretty straightforward.
Any questions on that? There are no action items. There are no additions to the agenda. The future meetings are listed there. Long range planning meeting, I don't know, they waiting for you two guys to do the doodle. Have you done the doodle? For that
I never
meeting?
saw anything for it.
Well, we did have a meeting.
The upcoming one.
The upcoming meeting.
There's a doodle out for that
Okay,
one.
all right. No, that hasn't been set yet. I was thinking, we had one, the previous one was related to the land. This
Right.
next one that I've asked that be put in place has to do with reviewing options for private restrooms at the high school, reviewing some of the work that's been done on the parking lot planning. And then also a presentation on some CTE structure ideas for a potential future referendum.
Okay. Well, you guys should look at your email because I got it and you're both on that committee if that's waiting.
Or get it. Times and days. I haven't seen anything.
Okay, well, I'll let Emily know then. Okay, all right, so, finances, change then to the next meeting and a work session on the 20th. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion made by Chad. Second by Jim, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We.
I saw it because it was spam.